This is the HDTS emergency stick, available on Amazon and down in our description. Flashlight, a hand warmer that heats to a constant temperature of 109 degrees. A plasma lighter, charging port, and you can charge your electronic devices from this internal battery. Got an emergency glass breaker tool right here and a water purification straw. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the SafePrep Show. Tonight is part 2 with Tabitha from At the Betancourt. So what are we going to get into and discuss tonight? More on homesteading. We're going to start talking about a pantry, how to start one, how to rotate. We've got some lists for you as far as pantry staple items down in the description. One from me, one from her. We're also going to talk about her and her husband and their relationship, how they help each other prep and how they help each other homestead. And we're also going to begin a much broader discussion on homestead security and home security, specifically from a female's standpoint. As always, thank you guys for being here and for your support. Let's get the episode started. We'll see you at the end. You had a lot of things on our things to talk about list that kind of are all in this area right here. So you covered most of them, food storage and how basic supplies can make just about anything. And I'll mention here that I'm going to put a link down in the description that has got it's a 1-year list of pantry supplies that are staples for a family.
Why don't you share my pantry list?
Your pantry list?
I have a pantry list out there.
It's
it's in the link to my bio. And it's literally, it took me 6 years to complete. Every time I used something or I bought, I would put it on there, everything. And it is so in detailed. It has all the spices and the wheats and everything, and how much a family of 2 would have on hand. And then I think it has that. But then it also has prices, and I kept the 2019 prices. But then it also has all the things that you need for making your own soaps and lotions.
Y'all love list. Y'all love list. Y'all give me list. Everybody's like, give me a list. I'm like, I make videos. So we will drop the list in the description. Let's see. Being prepared with recipes and a knowledge ahead of time is key. You said that. Mm-hmm. Food pantry rotation and
yes.
How would somebody, you guys eat your 1930s diet? So rotating things and eating things from your working pantry it's normal for you. But for somebody who wants to go out and buy some staple items or some prep food stuff, how do you suggest they rotate it?
When I bring something in from the grocery store and I go to package it, so it all goes into a holding cell like a holding room until I'm ready to package it. And when I package it, everything gets dated. And then it gets put in, like if it's a shelf that has things stacked and the front is what we use first, everything gets put in the back and it moves forward as I use the items. So I go shopping, it was twice a year right now because food, it takes me so long to get my items. The last time I went shopping, I have to buy whatever's on the shelf. So when I come home from the grocery store, if it's a jar of something, I'll write the year on it and I'll put it in the back of everything. If it's actual flour or a grain, I will package it in a mason jar and I will suck the air out of it to remove all of the oxygen. And I'll put the date and what it is, and then I'll put it in the back of the selection of where it's stored. It's a little mini pantry, grocery store type thing. Now I have my normal pantry, and that's in my kitchen. So when I go to grab something, I grab the front, the oldest gets used first, and I'll bring it in. Sometimes you'll see really funny videos of me opening something up, like 11-year-old black beans, and I'll open it up and you'll hear the air seal, and I'll smell it and I'll look through it and see if there's any bugs and stuff. And then I put it in a container in my pantry, which is easy grab and go, able to actually use it like a normal person.
So you wanted to talk about mindset, which is one of my favorite topics. Because you're a certain type of person right now. You have certain experiences, and sometimes it is hard for especially new preppers to imagine the types of situations that we can be in. The situation like you talked about with the earthquake that kind of got you into this, that blossomed in the garden and in permaculture and everything. We talk a lot about mindset on my account, but you had it like specific mindset circumstances together, like in case you need to do something horrific, and I'll let you
Mhm.
elaborate on that, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it.
Okay, first you have to realize I am a city girl. I am 100% city girl. I came from California. I was a California girl. I wore heels like this. I was always dressed to the nines. I had full on makeup and I always looked nice. So you have to keep that in mind. My husband wanted chickens when we moved up here, and I did not want chickens. And that was a total mindset that when I went to go pick up chickens, I took a dog crate and we picked up 5 chickens. We bought full chickens from someone that sold us chickens. By the way, if you're buying chickens from someone that are full and they're normal sized chickens and they're already laying, you're not getting their favorite chickens. They are not selling you their favorite chickens. Let's just know that. We ended up naming them all after prison girl names, and one of them was called Big Bertha. And she was mean. So my husband wants chickens. I go up and I buy 5 chickens and I bring them home. I literally was freaking out the whole entire time. Here I am. It's like been a year and a half. We've been on this homestead. I built the chicken coop out of scrap stuff. And I'm sitting in my car, chickens in the back, and I'm literally hugging my shoes because I just want to move back to California. And this is not me. This is not my life. I am not this girl. I do not want chickens. And I do not want to touch them because when I bought them, they loaded them up for me. And I do not want chickens. So I get them. I put them out in the yard. They're in the coop. I do the whole free range thing. I'm thinking this is great. And then all of a sudden, they literally destroy a pathway that I had just built. And then they attack my lemon tree within 20 minutes of being free range. And then that was it. I said, nope, you're done. You guys are going in your paddocks. I'm going to build you a whole system out there. They have their paddock, their coop, their indoor protected living room space. They have an outdoor space, and that's that. So then let's talk about the cougar. So that was one mindset that I have to get through. Right now, I am a chicken mama, and do not send me chicken stuff. Oh.
What's up, Preppers? Hey, fan.
So now I'm working the land, and my husband is telling me, I want you to carry all the time you're on the land because it is pretty much forested. And I'm like, oh, whatever. But I do what he asks me to do, right? That's all he's asking me to do is to carry on while I'm on the land so that if something happens, I can protect myself. September of 26, I come home from a event I was at. I'm late. I go running down the stairs. I am armed. My dog is with me. My dog all of a sudden starts acting a little funny, like she stops mid-stairs, and I'm like, what? And I look over at my chicks because we're a closed loop system. We hatch our own chicks from our chickens. And I look over and I see this big tail go swoosh. And I'm like, oh, Miss Vole, one of our cats, is probably over there trying to get to the chickens again. And I look again, and it's too big to be a little cat. And then I look at it again, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's that bobcat that we saw the other night looking in at us while we were eating dinner. And I didn't really realize that bobcats don't have tails. It like didn't register in my brain. All I knew is I now have this big cat staring at me in the face, looking at me like, you've disrupted my dinner. I'm going to have to eat you. And that is when I learned that when you fire and you miss, they jump like Tigger. But when you hit, they spring like Tigger and they run. So here's my husband driving home, and you're probably going to think this is funny. And he just gets off work and he's backing in, and here's me, 2 firearms under and a flashlight coming out from the woods area, and he's like looking at me going, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, because I'm like, I had no idea that I should have been scared of this thing. I'm like, I just wanted to put it out of its misery because I knew I'd hit it. And I'm telling him all about this cat and how big it is and the tail and everything. And it's the bobcat and da-da-da. And he looks at me and he goes, bobcats don't have tails, honey. And that was the moment I realized, oh crap, I literally went face to face with a cougar. He's like giving me a photo lineup. This is a tail of a bobcat. This is a tail of a cougar. Which one did you see? And I'm like, that one. And he's like, this is the face of a cougar. This is the face of a bobcat. Which one did you see? And then he's like, honey, that thing could have seriously hurt you. And I'm like, okay. But first, you need to realize that when you're in the middle of a high stress situation, all of your thinking is totally different. All of it. So you think you're a really good shot, like when you're at a range. When the adrenaline starts pumping, and you and I both know about adrenaline, because when you're in first responder, you know about the adrenaline rush. You have to learn to contain that. And that's when everything changes in your brain, your whole hearing changes, everything. I hit him the third time I shot, but I didn't hit him perfectly. And that's because I was not prepared for that amount of adrenaline dumping that quickly. But next time, I know it and I can handle it, and I'll get him. So here, let's talk about the surgery. We have chickens. We have about 30 chickens now. Oh, you're laughing. This is so funny. We get bumblefoot on our chickens. So sometimes when the chickens step on something and they get a little cut, we have blackberry vines everywhere. There's no way that I can control that, so people just don't even bother. Sometimes they'll get a little infection, or they'll step on something, or a sharp rock or whatever, and they'll get this bumblefoot, and it can debilitate them. So I looked at my husband and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have 3 chickens that have bumblefoot, and we need to do surgery on them. And here's the YouTube video that I saw. And this is why it's really important to research everything and to watch the videos now, because there may come a time where we don't have the internet for this. So I have YouTube University, and I love Google and everything, but I have a full set of books over here that will take me everywhere I need to go, right? Illustrations and everything. I pull up the video, and we watched it like several months ago. So I know my husband knows this, and he's the steady hand. He can do it, right? So I'm thinking, I'll hold the chicken, honey. Like, I'm literally telling him, I'll hold the chicken, honey, and you do the surgery. And he looked at me and he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done this. And I'm like, no, remember that video we watched a couple months ago? I don't need any video. No, you have to remember the video we watched a couple months ago. You're going to have to do this, honey. You remember the video. You obviously remember it. I don't remember the video. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you not remember the video? Like, we watched it together. I remember where we were sitting in the house. We watched together. You have to remember. But he was so adamant about not knowing. He's like, well, I'll hold the chicken, and while you do the surgery on their leg. And I'm like, holy mother. I'm like literally internally freaking out inside. He holds the chicken. I take the knife, do the incisions. I literally perform surgery on 3 of these birds' legs and save them. We save them, wrap it. I do all the bandage and wrap it all up. We get the last chicken because we have what we call broody jail, where if you have a broody chicken, you can break them really quickly from not being broody jail. I should do a video on that someday. So he puts the chicken all wrapped up, its leg and everything. It's beautiful. I did the surgery. And the last one, he looked at me and he said, there you go. You did good. And I said, you should have done that. You don't remember the video? He goes, oh, I remember the video. And I'm like, what? And he goes, I remember the video. I'm like, then why didn't you do it? And he goes, because I wanted to know that in an emergency situation that you would be able to perform surgery.
So a lot of we've talked about audience percentages, and consistently 70 to 80% of my audience is female, and
I love that, by the way.
a lot of people, and I think that's pretty consistent across everybody, at least in my TikTok niche. Um, a lot of people don't have a supportive spouse, um, or and some of them have people that just criticize for doing it. And
Ooh.
I've got advice to give those folks, and they've heard it before, but you have bragged on your husband a lot for many different reasons in your content. But I just want to give you a chance to brag on him and to tell folks kind of things he takes care of and things that you take care of or what his interests are. And I just want to get to know the guy because I kind of like him a little bit.
Okay, my husband is absolutely amazing. He is absolutely he's the love of my life. I was doing a live video and somebody came in and he was like, "Oh, I could do better, or I would be there for you more." And I'm like, I stopped the whole entire live and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to tell you right now, I absolutely love my husband. He is the love of my life, my heir. And if you're in here to cause disruption in my marriage, you can just leave now because it's not going to happen. We have the best relationship. He's like, I married my best friend. I like literally married my best friend. Um, I thought he was a garbage man when I married him. You know what he does for a living, so you'll laugh at that. He told me he took out garbage. I told him I answered phones for the city of Fresno. So we're getting to know each other, and we had no clue we worked with each other. But he is the most brilliant, soft-spoken, sweetest man that you cannot put anything. And he's the one that wanted this lifestyle. So when you already know my food and my earthquake part, but what I haven't said is he went on a mission trip to Guatemala to train police officers. And while he was there, he met up with who was a prepper, and they were things. When he came back, we had a major problem in our city where almost the entire city was shut down. Grocery stores, everything. We had a certain demographic that was unhappy with the way things were going, and they all fled the schools. They were jumping fences. It was mayhem. We basically went to work and came home, and we were waiting for it all to calm down. And it was at that point in time, he had just come home from Guatemala, and he said, I met this guy and this is what he does. Let's look into it. And then we started looking into the preparedness lifestyle, and pretty glad we did, because we started, I always had food on hand, but we started looking at things in another way where he would give me a scenario and I would give back a scenario. He would, we would counter each other. And like I would walk into a Coach store and somebody would be passing me and he'll stop me and he would look at me and he'd say, what was that guy wearing? Describe him. And I'm like, why? And he's like, describe him. I want to know, what'd you see? So I would have to give a rundown of thin, medium, heavy build, 5'2", whatever, what he was wearing from head to toe, everything, right? But what he was doing was he was teaching me to be observant. And that was totally free. Be observant of everything. That guy, you can't put anything past him. I've tried. It's like, you don't know any. Yeah, no, you can't put anything past him. He's amazing.
What are his interests as opposed to your interest?
He's the beekeeper. He's not the gardener, but he is really good at looking at pests in the garden. So I want him going out into the garden because he'll go out there and he'll notice if one leaf out of an entire tree is chewed on. I don't know how he does that. He'll find a bug in like the whole thing. So he's the beekeeper, likes keeping bees. He likes brewing, so he's into the brewery aspect of things. Reading, he's the reader. He brings me things and he's like, do you think we can do this? And then I'm like, sure, let's try it. And I'll go off and adopt it and bring it into our lifestyle. And he's like, oh, that, he benefits from a lot. He's my taste tester. We cook together. We do everything together.
I'm blessed that my wife is interested in areas that I either don't focus on enough or that I'm not really interested in. And she's caught on to canning and enjoys that as much as I do. She's the ammo person. That's in the front of her mind a lot. So I honestly would be more tactically than I would be. But
Well, he's the big firearms guy. Like for Christmas one year, like we're so not normal. So for Christmas one year, we built our own Glock 17s. Like literally, they come in and it's all parts. And he's like, okay, now we're going to build them. And I'm like, okay. He's the one that teaches me how to shoot, teaches me all of my gun safety. We both carry left hands, so he doesn't get mad at me when I go in and I steal his holsters. And we have a rule in the family that if you buy one, you have to buy two, and they have to be the same serial number. The serial numbers one off of each other, and I get the even one.
nice. That's a good segue into you talked about homestead security, and I
Mm-hmm.
think you come at it from both of you come at it from a very unique angle, and that is a career in as a first responder. We know what type of people there are out there and what type of things happen because we've experienced them. We've been on scene or we've been on the other end of the phone line. But as far as that topic, what have you learned and what do you have to show people?
Well, I've answered the phones for many people that had people breaking into the homes. So I know basically they're coming in through broken windows, busted front doors, or they're coming in through a door or window that was left unlocked. I think we gain an awful lot of knowledge when you work in that field because you get to read the reports and you get to see what actually happens. The things that the news doesn't catch, like, right? Like we know exactly how many people are burglarized or how many cars are broken into and stuff like that. And they'll break into a car for a pair of sunglasses. They'll break into a car for a quarter. So I leave nothing in the front seats of my car. I keep my cars very clean. There's no trash in them because I don't want anybody to want to break the window to rifle through it. I park in a very well lit area. I look for where the cameras are when I'm in a store. I'll park near the police officer parking spaces as close as I can get. If I feel like, okay, so here's an instance. Women, you should have my husband on to talk about
We
women
probably
and
will.
intuition. He is brilliant with that. Like women, when you teach them how to shoot, are different than teaching men how to shoot. So when you're teaching a man how to shoot and you tell him aim left and up a little bit, he'll go up and left, and then he'll eventually start to slowly go back down to where he was. He doesn't ask you why or nothing. When you teach a woman how to shoot and you tell her aim up and left into the up and left a little bit, she'll turn around and she'll say why. When you're telling your wife to do something, does she always ask you why? That's because in our brain, if we know the reason, we will go up and left and we will never go back down because we'll know the why. And when we know the why inside of our brains, it will just become second nature for us. So he put on top of that the fact that he has researched women and how they have this intuition. Like he's reading a book and he stops and he looks at me and he goes, honey, when you walk in a room and you feel that there's a weird person, do you get a vibe of this person not being right? And I'm like, oh heck yeah. And he's like, huh. I'm like, don't you? And he goes, no. He goes, apparently it's something that women have that men don't have a lot of. That women have an intuition of somebody being up to no good, or like our fear mechanism. Like when I walk into a grocery store, and here's the example of it. I went into a grocery store in Fresno. There's a man dressed in dark clothing, head to toe. It's warm outside. He was weird. It was just weird. I do all of my grocery shopping, and every time I'm going through the aisle, he is right there. I go to the checkout stand. He is now standing at the door up against the wall watching me. That's weird. I want to go to my car, but there's something on the back of my head, my neck, that is just like, if you go outside, something bad's going to happen. So I tell the lady at the cashier, I said, could I please have somebody walk me out? And she's like, sure. Like, there's nobody here. The manager came down to walk me out because I was insistent. I'm not going to walk out without somebody. There's a man over there. He's pretty much followed me through the whole store. I get a really weird vibe from him. She walks me, the manager comes down. He walks me out, helps me load my car. I tell him about the guy. The guy is obviously pissed that I waited the 5 minutes it took for the manager to come down. The next day, I get a phone call. I'm at work. I get a phone call from that grocery store. The manager is on the phone, did not know talking to, telling me that a woman had been robbed outside of the store when she went out to her groceries. And I described him to him. He's like, how did you know? I said, because that is the same man that that was following me through the store when you walked me out to my car. So women have this really weird intuition that if we focus in and start really listening to it and not putting it off as, oh, you're just being silly, we really can save the majority of the incidences that happen to us. We can be a part of being proactive in our own safety.
What's your biggest fear as far as the security situation where you are? What have you guys done where you're at to fortify the castle, protect livestock, those types of things?
I can't divulge all my secrets.
Well, of course. I knew you wouldn't.
When we built this home, we put a security system up. And it was by a company that was just getting in from the commercial section to the private section. And one thing, I'm really big into computers and I love, technology. So when I was looking at cameras, I knew we had really horrible internet. And if you do a Wi-Fi camera, it works over the internet. And that's where you get the really blotchy,
grainy, yep,
video. So I knew I wanted a hardwired system and I wanted it to record at home, but I wanted to be able to view it when I wanted to on the internet. So I had to look for a specific type of system, and we put the cameras up so that I can look anywhere in the world that I am. I can always be, I can be notified when somebody comes up to my door, when somebody drives up into our driveway. I know when somebody is on this property. And then I have redundant systems, like I'll have a driveway alarm that will tell me when somebody's coming up to the driveway. That is motion and battery operated.
Intruder.
So if we lose
Intruder.
power, I can still. Yep. I have another system that allows me to put sensors all over the property. So I know, like we had a bear situation this spring. A bear was attacking our beehives. And I ended up putting all of the sensors around the area so I could find his path, because you can easily remove these sensors. So here's me going along the path, and I am putting sensors up here on this tree and on this tree and on this tree. And I whittled it down to where his path was. And then I would be notified whenever he went through that path. I would be notified, and it would give us enough time to get ready to go out to protect the bees. So
we've had a security system that can turn into a hobby itself if you're not careful, as cameras and security systems. And so we still have cameras that are separate from the security system. And then I think you eventually learn little bitty things, like how do you make a door more difficult to kick in? Replacing the original screws with those really long construction screws. Yep, she knows what I'm talking about.
3-inch screws.
The 3-inch screws, and
I've done that with everything.
I've been meaning to do a video on that, but it's one little thing you can do to make your castle a little more secure. I did a video a couple of weeks ago on the garage, the little disconnect at the top, that in case the power goes out, if you want to be able to disconnect it from the chain, well, people can,
I saw it.
Even if your garage door is shut, they can get a coat hanger, reach up through, and basically open your garage door. So we fixed that, and then we're going to put locks on the inside of the garage door just for if we ever need them one day. It's not like we're going to use them often, but just little bitty walking around your property and looking and what the hazards are. And sometimes you've got to think like a bad person,
or an animal. Because you're
Yes.
not just protecting yourself from a bad person, you're protecting yourself from an animal. So we have a fence line all along the outside of our perimeter, hidden in the forest, so you can't really see it. You can see the front fence, but you can't see the back fence unless you're back there and you run into it. But I walk that every few months to see if there's any tunneling going on. That's how I discovered some of our chickens were going, because they had tunneled under the fence. In the areas that we have deer, I put up and I need to do a video on that. I put up an 8-foot fence very cheaply, nothing elaborate. But you're not just protecting yourself from the people, but from the animals. And you can use, people are like, they think, okay, I wasn't going to say this. I'm going to say this because it's hilarious. So my husband's boss comes once, and he like parks up at the top. This was before we had the house. He parks up at the top, and he gets out and he's looking all around. And then he gets slowly out of his vehicle, and he slowly starts walking towards the front door. And I'm looking at him from the cottage. I'm looking at him, and I'm like telling my husband, why is he acting so weird? And my husband goes, oh, he's probably looking for the Gatling guns and wondering when they're going to pop up. I'm like, what? My husband has apparently told everybody in our area that we have all this stuff, and they're terrified to come to our house. It's good and bad.
Good.
Right? They're terrified to come to the house. But, also they don't know what we do have. And I know absolutely, I meet everybody out at the driveway. I know people when they come into this property before, and if I meet you out at the driveway, there's one of two reasons. I either don't want you anywhere near my property or into the property, or I know who you are and you're a good person.
Tabitha, it's Justin.
But yeah, I have pretty
Safe
much
prep. Don't shoot.
I have a visual of you as you're walking in, so you might want to be careful.
You were talking about the grocery store experience earlier, and we've talked a lot on my account. A lot of security experts talk about situational awareness. You're a former first responder. I know you have that, and obviously your has that. You've just got to pay attention. If you're in the grocery store and playing on your cell phone, you're not going to notice the guy that's following you out of aisle. If you're fumbling for your keys when you walk outside of your car to put groceries in your trunk, you're not going to notice the guy sneaking up on you. Criminals look for the easiest target. They do now. They will later. And it's simple things now, like locking the door behind you, being sure your windows are locked, being sure your car's locked. Because you have a criminal, and not even, it's just a kid. You got teenagers walking around, and all they'll do is pull on the car door handle. Yep. And if it is locked, they go to the next car. So it's very simple things that folks can do, and to get in the habit of just behaving differently.
Yeah, we have the number one reason why cars are being stolen is because you go out in the morning, you turn your car on to warm it up, you go back in to get your coffee, and then you go back out. And people wonder why their cars are missing when they come out.
And to be honest, and I know you know this, it's illegal in a lot of places.
Is it?
It is. It's illegal to I don't think they say it's illegal to go start your car in the morning, but if you leave a car running and unlocked, it's illegal because they're trying to prevent theft.
Yeah, even if you lock it though, they come by, they smash the window, they unlock it, they get in, and they drive off. It boggles my mind. I watch people in my own neighborhood do this, and I'm like, every day you hear the car start, they go back down to their house, and then they come back up, and I'm like, I'm just waiting for them to come to me and say, somebody stole my car. Yeah, you gave it to them.
You're predictable.
There are literally people that drive around looking for the air coming out of the tailpipe, and nobody in the car. That drop their partner off. Partner gets in the car and drives off.
Folks, you're being cased. You heard it here first. Yep.
Literally people that do every morning go around looking for cars running that are unoccupied.
Isn't she awesome? Yes, she is. She will be back next week at a regular night time. Friday, YouTube, Facebook, 7 p Central, 8 p Eastern. And she'll be back for a part 3 where we're going to talk about self-defense, puppy-doos, specifically from a female's perspective. So you guys will definitely want to be here for that. Additionally, be sure you guys check the links down in the description. All of her stuff is there. All of my stuff is there. The pantry links that we mentioned in this episode. I've got one. She's got one. They're down here. If you guys would like to support the podcast or the show in any way, this is the main way that we get our message out to our preppers these days. If you might like to make a financial contribution or donate a piece of gear or something, there are a couple of different ways you can get that down in the description. Tabitha, as always, thank you for being here. You guys be sure you check her out on all of her social media accounts. But she will be back next week on the Safe Prep Show. Until then, guys, I'm Justin. Y'all have a good week and stay prepped.
And he goes, because I wanted to know that in an emergency situation that you would be able to perform surgery.
So when I come back from peeing, we're going to talk about the hubby. That was a really good segue. Yeah.
I'm going to go too.
I got my eyeballs are floating. I'll be right back.
Go.